Did a single shoulder check just end an All-Star's dream? Or did it finally force the WNBA to pick a side? That's the question ricocheting through practice gyms, Twitter timelines, and one lonely rental car lot right now. Because the sudden fall of Diamond DeShields isn't just another roster footnote, it's a neon warning sign for anyone who still thinks taking a reckless swing at the league's biggest cash cow is business as usual. When Caitlin Clark rolled into the pros last summer, the numbers didn't just climb, they detonated. She piled up 769 points, 337 assists, and 2 triple-doubles as a rookie, hijacked every monthly award the league could print, and dragged television ratings to 24-year highs. Even a preseason scrimmage this May flirted with 1 million-plus viewers. Tickets vanished, merch back ordered, expansion franchises suddenly bragged about 3,900 courtside seats before they had a coach. To networks and sponsors, Clark felt like basketball's version of an IPO. To some veterans, she felt like a hostile takeover. Every bright light, of course, casts a shadow, and that shadow stretched across August 14th, 2024, when Indiana hosted Chicago. The Fever were coasting when DeShields spotted Clark cutting through the lane. No play on the ball, no swipe at the pass, just a lowered shoulder and a bone-rattling thud. Replay showed the contact smashing directly between Clark's shoulder blades. Officials called a common foul and later upgraded it, but by then the clip was already consuming social media. Commentators labeled it calculated. Fans called it an assault. The league office? Silent. On paper, DeShields finished her year averaging 4.5 points, her career low. Off paper, she became Exhibit A in what fans started calling Clark envy. Chicago declined to re-sign her. New York tossed a training camp lifeline, then sliced it before the ink on the practice jerseys dried. Connecticut swooped in with a 1-year prove-it deal. 3 months later, a 59-word press release ended that experiment too, just 36 hours before opening night. ESPN broke the alert. Local reporters chased reaction, but DeShields herself told the rawest story. She opened Instagram Live from a parking lot outside Mohegan Sun Arena, belongings crammed to the headliner of her rental. Voice trembling, she explained that she'd driven up from Atlanta, thrilled for a fresh start, only to be cut before she could even unpack. No rental cars were available to get her, and her pile of boxes back home. The team will ship 3 to 5 boxes, she said softly, but I've got way more than that. Just like that, a former All-Star looked less like a professional athlete and more like a stranded college kid at the end of semester. Only this time, the dorm had slammed the door behind her. While DeShields counted suitcases, another name was already curbside. Chennedy Carter should have entered 2025 with max contract leverage after pouring in 17.5 points per game for Chicago. Instead, she's been ghosted by every GM in the league since her own off-ball hip check on Clark went viral. YouTube thumbnails scream banned, though no memo actually confirms it. Around front offices, no one uses the word officially. They just shrug and say, bad optics, tight cap, next question. Rumor or reality? The pattern feels impossible to miss. Hammer Clark the wrong way, and your next contract evaporates faster than Gatorade on hardwood. That pattern slices right into 3 fault lines the W has never fully settled: money, generation, and race. First, the dollars. Clark attracted new sponsors overnight. Some teammates spent a decade grinding for half that shine. Second, the culture clash. Social media savvy rookies arrive with highlight reels that double as endorsement reels. The old guard, forged in near invisible gymnasiums, can feel pushed aside before their prime is even done. Finally, uncomfortable but unavoidable, the optics of a white superstar in a league that is overwhelmingly black. A few veterans vent privately that Clark's fame reflects who mainstream media chooses to celebrate, not just who wins games. Others insist it's pure jealousy, nothing more. But when Clark absorbs repeated cheap shots, and the league office meets it with radio silence, those 3 conversations fuse into one explosive question. Whose league is this, really? From the outside, the answer looked brutally simple. It's the league of whoever sells the most jerseys. Inside Park Avenue headquarters, the answer took the shape of hushed December meetings where officials reminded GMs in corporate polite tones that recurrent dangerous plays against star assets would invite harsher discipline. Nobody had to spell out whose initials sat atop that star list. Around the same time, rumors surfaced that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, worried about optics spiraling, nudged W leadership to protect its investment. Kirk office whispers, no public record, but the very absence of comment only stoked the narrative. That narrative and detonated again during the most ruthless roster deadline in recent memory. Between May 14th and 16th, teams filed 36 waivers, most in a 48-hour window since 2016. Injured vets, underperforming sophomores, even a first-rounder from the season before, gone. DeShields was the headline, but she wasn't alone. Hours after Stanford's Haley Jones posted a selfie celebrating her first home, Atlanta quietly cut her to 11th spot math. Social media turned savage. Beneath DeShields' tearful live stream, one comment read, "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." Another borrowed a meme from Friday. "She gonna cry in the car." Sympathy existed, but it was drowned out by fans convinced the league had finally drawn a line in the hardwood, and DeShields had stepped over it in August. Opening night offered no breathing room for nuance. Clark splashed 28 points and dished 11 assists as Indiana upset the Liberty in front of nearly 1 million viewers. Preliminary numbers that would feel at home on an NBA Wednesday. DeShields, now back in Atlanta, live-streamed a solo shooting workout and tagged it number road back. Carter reportedly signed a 6-figure contract with Pantera de Aguascalientes in Mexico, posting a single lock emoji on Twitter. The WNBA, still silent, had nonetheless delivered its verdict in the transaction column. Target the golden goose and you risk extinction. Depending on who's talking, that verdict is either long overdue accountability or secret blacklist. DeShields' supporters say she was cut for performance, not one foul. They point out that cheap shots litter highlight reels every season without ending careers. They ask why only certain players in a league already infamous for brutal roster math get branded as villains. Clark's defenders counter that basketball plays don't involve lowering a shoulder into someone's spine. They note that every time a player publicly mocked or hammered Clark, ticket sales trembled, and networks started asking why the league couldn't protect its most bankable star. Scratch the surface of that argument and a harder truth appears. The W is fighting for mainstream relevance on a razor-thin budget. 11-woman rosters mean every player must justify her slot in points, boards, or brand value. Clark delivers all three: an aging but still athletic DeShields, or a volume-scoring Carter with defensive lapses. The minute they become PR liabilities on top of salary cap headaches, GMs reach for waiver paperwork faster than you can say mid-level exception. Call it harsh, call it hypocritical, but in an ecosystem where charter flights remain a dream, business ruthlessness often masquerades as moral principle. Yet there's another subplot rising underneath the spreadsheet pragmatism: fear. Every player who fires a stray elbow at Clark winds up replayed on national talk shows that barely mention the W otherwise. Every fan who clicks that clip might be a potential season ticket holder, if they don't walk away thinking the league protects grudges more than talent. For decades, the W begged mainstream sports culture to pay attention. Now that bright light is here, any act that threatens the marquee risks burning down years of incremental progress. Whether out of genuine concern or cold dollars, the league can't afford another viral cheap shot. For DeShields, the fallout is painfully personal. The parking lot video etched itself into the collective consciousness precisely because it stripped the usual gloss from professional sports. No agent scripted statement, no locker room backdrop, just a young woman realizing in real time that her career might be over. The boxes piled in her back seat looked hauntingly like the boxes Clark stacked in college dorms while she torched the NCAA record book. In another timeline, maybe they'd star in the same commercial for sneaker deals. In this one, the contrast is a gut punch. One player rises so fast she breaks the camera gimbal, another can't even find a ride home. Carter's chapter feels just as stark. A walking bucket from day one, she nonetheless became synonymous with the phrase cheap shot after that hip check. No suspension followed, but her phone got quieter by the month. Overseas teams, happy to import highlight reels, called first. The W kept its distance. Officially, her absence is about cap space and roster fit. Unofficially, it's a case study in how reputation, once dented, corrodes opportunities quicker than a bad knee. None of this erases larger debates about how the league markets itself, and who benefits when the spotlight narrows to a single face. Clark herself has tried to deflect credit at every turn, praising teammates, lifting veterans, cracking self-deprecating jokes about Iowa winters. But humility can't muffle the scoreboard. She buries logo threes like layups. She sells out arenas in cities she's never visited. She might land the richest shoe deal women's basketball has ever seen, with a rumored opt-out rider that could force the next CBA to address revenue splits in ways no star before her managed. Every time she smiles for a Gatorade ad, someone else worries the gap widens. So where does that leave the league? Teetering, perhaps productively, between two identities. One path protects its stars mercilessly, packaging them for global consumption and letting TV money raise all boats. The other path clings to egalitarian ideals where every roster spot is earned solely between the lines. Reality, messy as ever, is gluing those paths together with dollar bills. The broadcast deals that keep charter flight dreams alive hinge on magnets like Clark, but the authenticity that hardcore fans cherish springs from the bruises, the rivalries, the unapologetic edge that players like DeShields once embodied. If the WNBA becomes too sanitized, it risks dulling the very passion that sells sneakers. If it lets another marquee name get flattened without consequence, it risks looking amateur on the global stage. For now, the pendulum has swung emphatically toward protection. DeShields is out. Carter is out. Clark opens year 2 not only as reigning Rookie of the Year, but as the league's unofficial litmus test. Foul her hard at your own peril. Praise her at post-game podiums, and watch retweets climb. The message couldn't be clearer if it were painted on the baseline in neon. Raise the standard or get left behind. Still, watch any gym long enough and you'll notice gravity never sleeps. If DeShields scrapes her way through the overseas circuit averaging 22 a night, some teams stateside will sniff around, media storm or not. If Carter locks in defensively in Mexico and fills arenas there, she'll get another look. Highlight tapes don't ask forgiveness, they just loop until somebody notices. And when the next phenom after Clark arrives with fresh endorsements, today's darling could feel yesterday's temperature drop. The cycle never ends, it just changes jerseys, which makes DeShields' parking lot confession all the more instructive. In that moment of raw uncertainty, she posed a question every pro athlete eventually faces. What do you do after you get waived? For some, the answer is China, Turkey, Australia, anywhere a paycheck still echoes. For others, it's a pivot into coaching, commentary, or the yawning unknown. But for anyone watching, with a scholarship, a contract, or just a dream, the deeper answer is this. You decide whether the game is what defines you, or merely what launches you. Caitlin Clark doesn't get to dodge that question either. Stardom, this incandescent, has a half-life. Triple doubles turn routine, headlines chase fresh storylines, and eventually a rookie with flashier handles will bounce into the draft room. When that day comes, how the league treated her, not just how it protected her, will echo. Did it empower her to lift others? Did it foster rivalries fierce enough to hook new viewers without ending careers? Or did it silence dissent with waiver wires and shattered luggage? For the WNBA, the stakes feel existential. One mismanaged incident could confirm critics who still insist the league can't handle primetime scrutiny. One transcendent rivalry, fierce but fair, could add zeros to broadcast renewals. Every month the balance shifts. But right now, in May 2025, the scoreboard reads like this. Clark 1, career-ending cheap shots 0. And that brings us back to you. Karma, collateral damage, or necessary purge. What do you call the fall of Diamond DeShields? Drop your take in the comments, because we read every single one. Smash that like button if you think the league finally drew a hard line. Hit dislike if you believe a silent blacklist is nothing to cheer. And if you haven't already, subscribe and ring the bell, because next week we're diving into the hush-hush clause inside Clark's rumored 8-figure shoe deal, the escape hatch that could rewrite how revenue sharing works for every player on the planet. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Until then, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, in a league where one cheap shot can cost millions of eyeballs, the next foul might not just end a career, it could end an era.